Hey, everybody. I think Donald Trump sunk to a new low yesterday, or one of many new lows, I suppose, in the way that he fawned over MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince. I think that the comments that Trump made to the reporter who tried to ask MBS about the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, I think Trump's comments were nothing short of sociopathic. And Khashoggi was a resident of the United States, and he was a Washington Post journalist who was murdered in 2018. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But here's the most disturbing part of all this for me. It seems like Americans are just becoming so numb to Trump's demented personality that this sort of thing that he did yesterday just almost hardly makes waves. And I know exactly what Trump supporters are going to say. They're going to miss the point, as always. And they're going to say, we need Saudi Arabia, so Trump has to do business with MBS. And then they'll point to the fact, that fist bump that Joe Biden gave to MBS when he wanted Saudi Arabia's help with oil prices. And that fist bump bugged me, too, a lot, especially since I cared a lot about what happened to Khashoggi when I heard about that. And Biden promised to make MBS a pariah after the killing of Khashoggi. And so it bothered me, but I also saw it as kind of the normal concessions that we're used to our presidents making to dictators. I don't like it, but for reasons most of us can understand, even if we don't like those reasons, presidents do make these alliances and they have to work with the people in the world. But it's not just that Trump is working with a dictator of another country, which presidents kind of have to do. And it's not just that he invited him to the White House, which he didn't have to do. He rolled out the red carpet for him, and he even did a military flyover. He went way above and beyond for this guy. And then he defended MBS against even having to answer questions about Khashoggi's murder and dismemberment by Saudi agents. And that act, that murder, our own intelligence agencies concluded that it was directed by Mohammed bin Salman. So I'm going to play this clip of Trump talking, and then I'm going to talk about why I think this goes beyond any normal treatment that a brutal dictator would get from any non-sociopathic president of the United States.
Is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
So I hope that clip bugs you as much as it bugs me. And here's why I think this is important. The President of the United States, whoever that may be, plays a huge role in shaping who our country is becoming. And under Donald Trump, it's very clear who we're becoming. We're becoming more like Saudi Arabia every day. We're becoming a country where the family of the leader, the family members enrich themselves off of their connections to the government. And in Trump's family's case, it's already looking like billions of dollars since Trump took office. And we're becoming a country where open corruption is acceptable for people who are connected to the leader, where the leader pardons his own associates, but then he turns the justice system on his enemies. So Donald Trump admires Mohammed bin Salman, I think, because MBS runs his country the way Trump wants to run the United States, as a repressive engine that exists for the mass production of money money that goes straight into the pockets of the leader and his family. I think that's what Trump sees in MBS. That's what he sees in Putin. That's what he wants for the United States. And it's all right out in the open. Trump's family is doing massive amounts of business with Saudi Arabia. And just for a start, you can look up Trump's connections to Dar Global. And we're talking billions of dollars of real estate development business around the world. And I think everyone knows about Saudi Arabia's investment of $2 billion in Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's private equity firm, $2 billion. And then there's Trump's involvement in the Live Golf Tour. And those things are just kind of scratching the surface. And I think it's right for people to be asking, do Trump's financial interests conflict with America's interests? And I just think it's obvious that they do. So we're not just increasingly becoming a nation where corruption on this scale is normal and expected under Donald Trump. We're also becoming a country that spits on the very concept of human rights. And I get it when people say, well, we've never been great on human rights. I get that. But we're not even giving lip service to human rights anymore under Donald Trump. Trump's comments yesterday about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, those aren't a one-off. From the start, Trump defended MBS against charges that he had Khashoggi killed. Trump has no desire to make waves with MBS because that would put his money at risk. So when Trump went to the Middle East in May, he gave a speech to the Saudi Investment Forum where, according to this article by the Center for American Progress, he outlined a vision for regional policy that championed national sovereignty while downplaying democracy and human rights. On stage, he promised that the United States would no longer deliver lectures and encouraged the people of the region to pursue their own destinies in their own way. Trump just doesn't care about human beings. We know that. And he scoffs at people who raise these issues of human rights. But when he lashed out at the reporter, what I saw going on was some projection from Trump. MBS actually responded to her question after Trump went off. And MBS's response, I mean, as much as he's, I think, just as bad as Trump, his response was at least very prepared because he expects questions like that when he comes to America. And I'm sure that he considers it a small price to pay for our government's support, that he has to answer some questions that are uncomfortable. But Trump is such a fragile little bully that he can't stand being asked hard questions. So I think he projected his own insecurities and his own irritation onto MBS and like lashed out at the reporter on MBS's behalf. We have a petulant child in the White House, and he's getting less able to control his juvenile outbursts every day. But the most galling part of this for me is that over the past couple of days, I've heard several people that I respect make the sort of argument that I addressed at the start, that, you know, they basically state the obvious, that the United States needs a good relationship with Saudi Arabia. But then they stop thinking beyond that very basic, obvious statement. And I understand realpolitik. I understand that our national interest requires us to have diplomatic ties with some really unsavory, repressive regimes. And I understand that all presidents have to make some alliances with some pretty unsavory characters because the world is mostly run by unsavory characters, including the United States, and especially lately. But I just think we have to do better than just pointing that out, that basic fact that we need Saudi Arabia, and then excusing anything that our leaders do in partnership with those governments. And this is just one of hundreds of reasons that I'm really disappointed in the people who claim to be following Christ when they support Donald Trump. Christian Trump supporters just make all sorts of claims about being salt and light in the world, about being the good people, about standing for Christian values. And they'll mock anyone who votes for a Democrat, and they'll accuse the Democrats of being downright evil. But then they show this remarkable lack of capacity for abstract thought when it comes to any serious moral reasoning. Trump says we got to do business with Saudi Arabia. So they say, all right, boss, anything goes. And they accept his complete abdication of moral leadership in the world. And they accept the way that he openly lines his own pockets by making deals with these thugs. And they accept his moronic excuses and deflections, claiming that he's not involved in his own business and that they actually do very little business with Saudi Arabia, when he's bragged for years about how much business they've done. But Trump's Christian supporters, who consider themselves to have the mind of Christ, to be led by the Spirit, listen to this ignorant, brutish guy. They listen to the thoughts of the worst man in America, and they say, "Oh, it sounds good to me, boss." The Trump era is coming to a close. At most, he's got a little over 3 more years as president. And once he's gone, I really wonder if his Christian followers are going to have an awakening about him, or are they going to remain the only people in America who still embrace Trump's anti-Christian worldview, in the name of Jesus, of course? And are they going to immediately begin then a search for the second worst man in America, that they can make him the protector of their faith? I guess we'll find out. So thanks for listening.